and welcome to another episode of Ridley Scott, the Duelist. Ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, scot-free, Sir Ridley Scott, Russell Crowe, Christian Bale, and all temperamental actors around the world are proud to present 20th century epics of Gladiator, Robin Hood, Exodus, Gods and Kings. Welcome to...
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the winner takes all triple threat match.
The triple threat match of Ridley Scott's Gladiator 1, Gladiator 2, or Gladiator Part 3. Welcome to Ridley Scott, the Duelist. I am Sean Nolan. Enjoy.
Perfect organism.
Well, I did it, all right? It's done. I killed him.
I've seen things you people wouldn't believe.
Rise a knight. Rise a knight.
We got a Black Hawk down, we got a Black Hawk down.
If you created me, who created you?
A bottle of wine that tastes like you. A glass that's never empty.
Yannick, if you don't stop it, there won't be any home to go back to.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
Okay, so, where will we start? We're going to start with, chronologically, it's going to be Gladiator, which I guess is going to be known as the real coming home for Ridley Scott. He was gone for quite a while, had kind of like Icarus, in a way, reached for the sun with Alien or Blade Runner, which are now seen as being classics. Blade Runner, I guess, was kind of his way of touching the sun and, burning up. So I have very vivid memories about Gladiator. I was extremely, just very excited about seeing the movie. I remember seeing the trailers for it, and the year before, having watched The Insider, thought to myself, man, Russell Crowe must be like one fucking great actor to have gone from playing like a man who was, like in his mid-50s to now playing like this chiseled, like out of marble gladiator. So, props to him. Okay, so anyway, epics. So I guess epics kind of came back with Gladiator being such a hit. What I think some people don't remember is that Gladiator was a hit, but it wasn't an enormous hit. You got to remember, this is 2000. If I remember correctly, it came out in May of 2000. So, years before Titanic had come out. So, movies were kind of given a certain benchmark for being enormous hits. And Gladiator came nowhere near that. But it was a big enough hit to be seen as being a hit. It's not like nowadays where a lot of times it's like, well, we have an idea for a movie. We think that, it's going to be a big hit, and it'll only cost $50 million. And the conglomerate says to you, we would rather it cost $100 or $200 million and make $500 million or $1 billion. Anyway, Epics had gone away for a while. So Gladiator comes back with just kind of breaking the door down as being like a big epic type story. And, it was kind of a breath of fresh air. And Russell Crowe, I was actually quite a big fan of The Quick and the Dead. It is one of the first DVDs that I had ever owned. I think it was from my birthday. Somebody had gotten me The Quick and the Dead. I have such a good memory, but for some reason cannot remember who got me The Quick and the Dead. Gladiator. Loved it. Great time. A lot of memorable things about it. I do remember that when it came time for the big award parade, thinking, this is like a great movie, but it's not a great movie. So why would it get nominated for, certain Oscars? It's obviously not a Best Picture. Ultimately, it did win Best Picture. In 2000, I was kind of a Traffic fan. I've always been a pretty big supporter of Steven Soderbergh, as much as I've been a big Ridley Scott fan. But I always kind of felt that Steven Soderbergh had done something with that movie that was very good, and it just was his body of work. I was glad to see that Steven Soderbergh had won an Oscar, and I almost kind of wish that maybe Ridley Scott had won an Oscar. Whatever, the Oscars are not a really big thing, I remember just meeting with a bunch of people going to see Gladiator, and we had met at like a Dunkin' Donuts, and I think it was like my boss and was one of my best friends and some other people, and we were talking about like Oscar history. Like, that really mattered. I mean, what a schmuck. Who gives a fuck about any of that? I guess I did it at the time. Yeah. But, Gladiator was a great experience. I enjoyed the movie a lot. I've enjoyed it quite a few times afterwards. It is kind of it's one of these like perennial movies that I can put on in the background. I don't think it's a great movie, but I do find it to be good enough to keep revisiting because there must be something to it. There must be something special about it. That doesn't just make it some kind of pedestrian type bullshit movie. So that's Gladiator. So what else we have? We have Robin Hood. Robin Hood I've watched a couple of times. I had seen it in the theater. And I was a little disappointed. Which, I mean, it was, I don't know what I was expecting. I think unfortunately, with the age of the internet, when you kind of know about the lead up to a movie, it's a little unfortunate to kind of find out what does eventually happen. And when you hear about that they were going to be doing a Robin Hood movie that was going to be from the point of view of the Sheriff of Nottingham, doesn't mean it would have been better, doesn't mean it would have been worse. At least it would have been something different. And you hear stories, whether or not these are true or not, about how the project, which was called Nottingham, was going to be Russell Crowe playing the Sheriff of Nottingham. And I don't know how true this was. He was also playing Robin Hood. So he was going to be playing Nottingham and Robin Hood. And what would have developed out of that? It's interesting to find out what would have happened with that. And I remember seeing the movie and just going like, this seemed like such a large project, just enormous in its the scope of it. We'll come back to a little bit of that. And the other movie that we're talking about here is going to be Exodus, Gods and Kings, which I have a very hard time defending this movie. There's little moments in it that are good, but a lot of the negatives of it outweigh certain positives or things that were done. And it's hard for me to kind of come back to find a way to really defend it. This is the same year that Russell Crowe is playing Noah. So Christian Bale is coming in to play Moses. So you've got Moses and you've got Noah, and these big projects that are a little divisive about their subject matter. And we'll come back to Noah at another time. But, out of any of the Ridley Scott projects, Exodus is one that I have a hard time getting behind. There are little moments to it. My one friend, brings up the moments where Moses is talking to, God through this angel, and they're playing these pieces of music from Wagner, which is kind of a great way to separate yourself. Something is happening here. Now, I think that even with that, there's parts where Ridley Scott could have taken an easier way out, but instead he is taking a stand on the fact that this is one of these like moments, especially when you have the the character that Aaron Paul is playing, which is Joshua. When Joshua sees Moses talking to God or talking to this angel through God, and it kind of gives it a little more of a grounded feel. And it's something a little special, something a little different. And I think that under certain films, this would have been like some kind of bullshit that they would have just completely just disregarded. Like, we don't need to do that right there. Yeah. But, I'll come back to Exodus, circle back to that when we kind of make more of our connections here. I am going to go back to Gladiator. So, Gladiator, like I said, it was a great experience. I would always kind of joke that when you hear like years later that they were making Gladiator 2, that the idea behind Gladiator 2 was going to be that Maximus was going to be an alien, like it was going to be a Highlander, that they're aliens and they came to this other country, and their idea was to come here and they took on these regimes, these empires, and to overthrow these, these emperors that had no business in charge. And that's Gladiator 2. Okay. So, we'll circle back to Gladiator, and we're coming over to Gladiator now, Robin Hood. So, Robin Hood. As my colleague Juan Gonzalez had once said in our other podcast, was that there are certain moments in Ridley Scott movies where it's about taking the time to living in the existence of these people. There is a moment where Robin Hood, is helping Marion fish livestock out of a water. And this is something that I think is lacking in certain films. Because I was talking about how they would remake epics of this time. And that Robin Hood, even though being like this ginormous, well, at least in budget, ginormous undertaking of a retelling of a tale, it at least takes the time to do these little moments. Little moments like in Kingdom of Heaven when they're, camping out, and, how are they camping out? How are they, how are they tending to their swords, or building a fire, or taking a piss in the river? And, Marion's trying to fish out this livestock, and Robin comes to help her, but doesn't help her, but gets the livestock out of the water, and then helps Marion out. And there's something kind of funny about it. So I almost kind of think that it lets a little bit of the tension out. So I think that it's good to have some humor in some of these, because it can be so hard to get back to that humor, especially when you're doing like large scale projects, and a lot of the days of being these post generation like X type things where things may be a little too caught up in fast editing, or tell us the answer. What's happening now? But I don't think Robin Hood is a particularly great movie, and that's fine. I think it's fine that it's not a great movie. There are a lot of movies that are not great. I mean, this might be a sliding scale, but okay, so I think Russell Crowe is probably one of the premier talents of his generation. I think he's a cool guy. He changed after Body of Lies. He became a different physical person. It's almost the type of thing like you have to understand that, like, even though in Robin Hood he is not, I'm just going to come out and say it, he's not fat Russell, but he is maybe a little more fuller, a little more, getting a little like bigger thumb, fingers. He's not Maximus anymore. He doesn't have the chiseled physique. He looks like a man who is in his, mid-40s and has kind of taken hold of his shape. I think that's fine. That's it's good. You're gonna force me to say it. I think fat Russell Crowe is good. We need that. Yeah. Well, I'm going to kind of leapfrog into different things here. So, the three movies all have something in common. And it is a weak Little John character. Gladiator has got its Little John character. Robin Hood has its Little John character. Exodus, Gods and Kings, has its Little John character. All of them being more weaker men who have to feed on the insecurities and the fear of people to rise up their stature, and it's very divisive. It can be very very dangerous because you're sending people either off to battle or against each other. In Robin Hood, it's about fear of the peasants, about having to pay taxes. In Exodus, it's about the fear of the gods and how they're going to punish you. Gladiator, it can be about how the shadow of the former Caesar, and how trying to get the greatness of Rome. And that's why these three movies fit into this triple threat, which is also kind of a little bit of its downfall, because Gladiator, although I don't think it's a great movie, I think it's a great movie with like maybe a lowercase g. The real problem is that Robin Hood and Exodus are these enormous productions. Big cast of people, big ideas, big set pieces. And it almost kind of feels like during meetings, they're like, I think this sounds great. Can you just make it Gladiator? Because that's what it feels like. It feels like it's Gladiator Part 1, Gladiator Part 2, and Gladiator Part 3. And I mean, that's it stinks. And, when, in terms of like with Exodus, Gods and Kings, every year around Easter and Passover time, I'm a Catholic, and I get into these weird kind of like rituals of watching certain movies around certain times. And when it comes to Easter time, I will throw the Ten Commandments on. And the Ten Commandments is a very like unusual type movie where I think even in the one production feature that they had, they talk about how like it was like this movie where Cecil B. DeMille called in favors to get this movie done. And it's not a great movie, but it is a great movie. As a cinephile, you find that like there's certain things about it that are lazy. It leans too much on being an epic, and an epic with like a lowercase e. I unfortunately find some humor in the fact that when they're having the big gathering before the exodus from Egypt, you got the young man who says to his grandfather, he's like, "Grandfather, Nubians." And some people don't know what that means. I found out a really strange way because in the 90s I had gotten into punk and ska music. And Mephistopheles, their lead singer, was called the Nubian Nightmare. So that's how I found out about the term Nubian. Well, enough of my punk rock ska days. So back to the discussion of these films, though. What was really kind of great was that Ridley Scott had finally he came back with Gladiator. The epic was back. It was everything kind of came together with the actors, making Russell Crowe like this, just making him into a star. Making him like a sexy kind of man, instead of being just like this exotic man from, Australia, via New Zealand. Like that, I said Australians, almost sound like Australia and New Zealand together. But, between that and, it was like him defining that like his world building was now going to be something new level, which we only would get more of through Kingdom of Heaven or with Robin Hood or Exodus, or the Alien prequels. With the one issue I have with Exodus is that I said this on on a podcast before. I don't know why you would bother making that movie. Biblical films are hard to do because you're going to piss off one side and you're probably going to piss off another side. And you're going to probably end up not appeasing either side. And in the long run, you fail. But to its credit, I will give Exodus a very big check mark. And that is that the description of the the plagues, which is not is based on source material too, is that the plagues are explained through more physical, realistic means, which for agnostics and atheists can connect them to these movies, and in a way maybe give them more of a spiritual connection, even if they don't understand or think of a higher being, by saying one thing happened, it led to another thing, it led to this other thing. Maybe it might be a part of a bigger thing, whether or not that is a spiritual thing or some kind of big energy or something that maybe is happening in the universe. I think it's a strength. So, good for them. Yeah. But the downside is, I think also Exodus gets swept up in this, we need to be big in scope and we need to fall into some better narrative arc of the early aughts, the 2010s-ish. So it needs to be a little more exciting. It's not these biblical epics of the 50s and 60s. It needs to be something that's more like, it's got to have something a little more like to it. And unfortunately becomes Gladiator 3.0 and is more of like a militaristic type thing. And I think it fails that. It doesn't do it well. Boo. For what it's worth, I actually like the fact that at least Exodus tries to be a little bit different than the Ten Commandments in the way that it's presented. It is very Ridley Scott-like. It unfortunately fails in being its own kind of thing and maybe, trying to explore more, except for the scientific stuff. The character development is, I'm just going to say, it's awful. The character of Aaron is bad. I don't think Moses is very good at all. And I like Christian Bale, but this is fucking awful. Some of the best scenes are like with him and his wife. I kind of like the exchange about about proclaiming his love and such. The small moments like that are good, but the bigger moments of being like the Grand Moses, I just think they're bad. They're not good. You might as well see the Heston version, because I think you get more out of it. And the Little John stuff across all three movies. So here's our Little Johns. We've got so Oscar Isaac, who's wearing blue contacts, which, not for nothing, is, I'm gonna say, it's a little off-putting. He could have brown eyes. There's people in England with brown eyes. Isn't the guy like, he's Argentinian or Chilean? I know Ridley, was trying to, get him into some stuff. He was in Body of Lies. he comes off of like the strangest looking Briton. Okay. So, he's the literal Little John. And we've got Joel Edgerton as Ramesses the second, who is the shiniest and prettiest looking Little John of the pack. And last but not least, we've got Joaquin Phoenix in, although Oscar nominated, I believe to be probably his most of his marquee performances, not the best. He seems so out of sorts. And when you look back and you look at him playing Arthur Fleck in Joker, or his role in Quills, or You Were Never Here, the Master, or her. This does not fit in the overall of this guy's acting. What the fuck is he doing in this movie? I'm being mean, but I'm being kind in the fact that I think that Joaquin Phoenix is a man of great empathy, and there's a lot of great strength in his performances, and I think that he is totally just swallowed up by this movie. I don't actually think that he should have been the one singled out. If anything, I like Oliver Reed in Gladiator. I think Oliver Reed is quite literally he's the shit, man. I mean, he gave his life for this movie too. He fucking died during the production of it. Do yourself a favor and look up it's called something like Ollie's Last Ride or Ollie's Last Drink, to see what Oliver Reed drank at the bar he was at the day that he died. And if you even think about trying to drink that amount of alcohol, you deserve to die as well. So, even though it's been over 20 years, rest in peace, probably one of the best alcoholics that, motion pictures has ever touched us with. Yes. All right. And we'll have a little snippet of him at the end of this to give him some praise. Gladiator, though, I kind of I kind of bounce a little bit around on Gladiator. It's a great movie, but it's not a great movie, and even though I can watch it, I could probably watch it a lot more than some of the other movies. Robin Hood's a lot of fun, but also kind of lacks certain elements to it. Some parts of it, the writing is a little blah. And Exodus is, in certain parts, just insufferable. Yuck. Okay. As you'll notice, Exodus, I have a hard time defending the movie. Anyway, though, when it comes to Robin Hood, I'm a big supporter of Disney's Robin Hood, where, Robin Hood is a fox. Maid Marian is a fox. She is a literal fox. Foxy Maid Marian. Yeah, that's my speed. Yeah. All right, so I guess we'll kind of bring this a little more to a head. So with Gladiator, all right. Why are movies not produced like Gladiator anymore? Is it because they're too expensive? Then fuck you. You should go out on a limb and make them more look like that. They should be like that. Come on. Don't be a lazy asshole. I mean, come on. I enjoyed Pompeii, but I mean, that was some bullshit. Jeez. Oof. Robin Hood, I mean, it's, again, I like the world building of it. I like the fact that it's another one of these historical Ridley movies. Ridley movies that are historical are quite good. He builds an era for you, lets you kind of take it in. If anything, I think Gladiator and Robin Hood let you kind of absorb the time and let you feel like you're there, and it's a little more of an experience. So that's what's really good about it. Exodus, again, I'm going to come back to the fact that if they had allowed it to be a little more relatable, it may have been a little more fun. But I think that its lack of humor fails it in the end. It's very unfortunate. Yeah. Oh well, oh well. But to its credit, Exodus Gods and Kings has tiny moments. The embodiment of the angel or of God itself that comes to Moses is at least a neat idea. Some of the set pieces are okay for the era that they're made in. I would have liked a little more care with the actual Hebrews in Egypt, instead of it making it seem like it was the saving of these slaves who have no idea why they're being saved, as opposed to it just being like, this is the way it's been for generations, and we just keep doing it. More of an understanding of it being, the chosen people, and, this man who left his family to go there, and I wouldn't have been surprised if, Moses had gone back to his wife, gorgeous woman, and she would just been like, get the fuck out of here. Yeah. So and with Robin Hood, my buddy Juan Gonzalez said that Robin Hood seemed like a movie that gets the most interesting right when the movie ends. And he's not wrong. But I think it's because the movie before it kind of seems more like a Gladiator film. And if you're going to spend, $150 to $200 million on a movie, you want it to be Gladiator. So, because that's all that Ridley Scott seems to do. That's all that people think he makes. I like Gladiator. I like I like Robin Hood. I'm not particularly a huge supporter of Exodus. I guess you can kind of see where this fatal this triple threat match is kind of going. But I mean, there's no contest here. The triple threat is won by Gladiator. Gladiator is the winner, hands down. All 10 fingers going down. Gladiator is the winner. Robin Hood comes in second, by a very, wide margin of a 3 count as far as, wrestling terms are concerned. And Exodus Gods and Kings was kicked out of the ring and hasn't been in the fight for quite a while. And that's how our throwdown goes. So, unfortunately, Exodus is out. Robin Hood took on Gladiator. Gladiator kicked its ass. So winner of the duel, Gladiator. And I always enjoy Ridley's movies where, there's a lot of world building. You got some characters with some, things that they want or need. When I went to go see Gladiator in the theater, I remember the scene where Maximus gets to his villa and he sees what happened to his wife and his child. And he turns to me like a fucking asshole as Russell Crowe is crying and he's got snot coming out of his nose or out of his, mucus coming out of his mouth and goes, "Dude, that's like the Oscar clip right there." And I was like, dude, get the fuck away from me. They're not giving this guy an Oscar. And Russell Crowe won an Oscar. So, look how silly I look. So, anyway, though, Russell Crowe is one of our greatest actors who has just kind of, he's gotten into his Brando phase. So, it is what it is. So, Jaimin Hunsu is just waiting for Maximus to come back so they can explain how they came from the planet Pingu and they are there to take down all of the evil regimes of the BC era to keep their lineage going. And that is Gladiator 2. Enjoy. Until then, I am Sean Nolan. This is Ridley Scott, the Duelist. We just had a triple threat match between Gladiator, Robin Hood, Exodus, Gods and Kings, and Gladiator kicked the shit out of the other 2 movies. Take care.
Those giraffes you sold me, they weren't made. They just walk around eating and not mating. You sold me queer giraffes. I want my money back.